online at cityofpensacola.com/UCRB input. If you do speak, there will be a time delay, so we just ask any members of the public that wish to speak that when we call you, to please lower the volume so that you don't have a delay. For members of the board, just a few etiquette items as we're doing the remote meeting today. When dialogue is not underway, just be sure to mute your microphones. When dialogue is underway, you'll want to turn the microphones back on, and if you would like to speak, try to use the little raise your hand button, and then the chair will call on you. Since this is the first meeting, we do have Assistant City Clerk Robin Tice here today to administer the oath of office.
Good afternoon, board members. Each of you should have received an email from me with the oath of office statement. And any of those who have not sent those back, just send them to my email, or you can send them to the PO box I put on the email. If everyone would please stand and raise their right hand. You, Drew Buchanan, Gregory Zagzon, Blake Foster, Ann Hill, James Lubeck, Spencer Leeper, Melanie Nichols, Christopher Satterwhite, Nestor Taylor, and Kelly Borzek solemnly swear or affirm that you will defend the Constitution, support and defend the Constitution of the government of the United States and of the state of Florida against all enemies, domestic or foreign, that you will bear true faith, loyalty, and allegiance to the same, that you are entitled to hold office under the Constitution, that you are eligible to hold office of member, Urban Core Redevelopment Board, and that you will faithfully execute the duties of said office on which you are about to enter, according to the best of your knowledge and ability, so help you God. Everyone just say yes.
I do.
I do.
Thank you.
I do.
I do.
Okay, the next order of business is going to be to determine a quorum. If you would, just for the record, when I call your name, please just say you're here. Drew Buchanan.
Here.
Gregory Zagzon.
Here.
Blake Foster.
Here.
James Lubeck.
Here.
Kelly Warschreck.
Here.
Nestor Taylor.
Here.
Melanie Nichols.
Here.
Christopher Satterwhite. Marilyn Wiggins. Spencer Leeper.
Here.
And Councilwoman Ann Hill.
Here.
Okay, so we do have a quorum. And at this time, we'll go ahead and we're going to do our election of officers. The officers for this board will be a chairperson and a vice chairperson. At most meetings, the chairperson will lead the meeting, and then in the absence of the chair, the vice chair will assume that position. Typically, we would do this by ballot. However, due to the remote format of the meeting, we will do it by verbal acclamation. So I'd like to ask, this is a large board, if there are any individuals that are interested in serving as the chairperson of the board today. And we will need a chair, so if anyone might be interested. Okay, so then I guess we'll open it up to nominations. Would anyone like to nominate a member of the board to serve as the chairperson?
I'm having a little trouble hearing. Is everybody okay?
Can you hear me okay?
Well, I can hear you. This is Drew Buchanan. Councilwoman Hill, would you like to like to chair this board.
I see Melody Nichols' hand raised.
I would like to nominate Christopher Satterwhite for chair.
I'm sorry, it cut out just a little bit. Can you repeat that?
I would like to nominate Christopher Satterwhite as chair.
Okay, Christopher Satterwhite.
I second the nomination.
I'll second that nomination.
Okay, the first was, I'm sorry, just state your name for the record.
Kelly Lazarek, seconded.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
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 Any
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none. Christopher Satterwhite will serve as the chair. We'll now take nominations for the position of the vice chair.
I'm happy to step up to serve in that role if no one volunteers. This is Drew Buchanan.
Okay, we have Drew Buchanan. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, do we have a second?
Greg Design, second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, Drew Buchanan will serve as vice chair. Okay, I will now hand the meeting over to Mr. Satterwhite.
Okay, can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I had trouble hearing before, so I guess that benefited everyone in the selection process.
Congratulations.
So I think I figured out what's going on. So anyway, here I am. Okay, so I have the call to order, and so do I start reading at the beginning of the chairperson script?
You'll want to pick up under reports and announcements.
Okay.
That's the next order of business that we have on the agenda.
Okay.
And you'll just start with stating the number of the item and then the title,
All right.
and then you can
Okay.
turn it back over to me.
Okay. All right. So reports and announcements. Number 1, 20-00383, update on rules and procedures.
And we do have City Council Executive here on the Teams meeting, and he's going to provide the update on this item.
Thanks, Veronica. Hello,
All
members
right.
of the Urban Core Redevelopment Board. First of all, I want to congratulate you on being a part of this board. Secondly, on behalf of the Pensacola City Council, we want to thank you very much for your desire to serve and your service on this board. Without our volunteers, such as yourself, there's nothing that we could get done in the city. So your services is absolutely invaluable. Just as an update on the rules and procedures, we are in the process of updating all the rules and procedures for all of our boards. And the hope is that we will have that final document and documents, because we're going to have an overriding rules and procedures handbook, and then there will be individual rules and procedures for each board that will be standardized, so they will really, for the most part, be the same across the board for all of our boards and committees. So right now, where you sit today, you don't have a set of rules and procedures, but by the time you meet for your next meeting, you will have one that has been to the City Council and passed their approval, and then we will get it out to everybody. So I'm certainly willing to answer any questions if anybody has any. For today's purposes, anything that you vote on will require a majority of those present, because that's the way the other boards function right now. So any vote that you have to take on anything will be a majority of those present. And Veronica, just a quick question. Are you having someone from the city attorney's office give a brief discussion on sunshine?
We don't have someone today, but we certainly can schedule that for the next meeting.
Okay, that would be great, and I would suggest that. I will just offer you this, just a very cursory view of sunshine and public records. As a matter of course, and according to Florida state law, none of the board members can speak to each other about any item that might come before the board for a vote. So that if two or more board members talk to each other about any item that might come before you all for a vote, that meeting has to be publicly noticed, and that meeting has to be open to the public. That would include email exchanges back and forth. So if you want to share anything with the other board members, the suggestion is you send it to Victoria or Helen or Denise. They will then send it out to the board members. Sharing the information isn't the issue. The issue comes about when you start having a two-way discussion about it. Also, just as a reminder, every email you send that is pertinent to this board or discusses any items coming before this board are considered public records and are open for retrieval. So just keep that in mind when you're sending emails and what you say in emails. Just as a general rule, the best course of action is when you're serving on a board such as this, you can't talk to each other than when you're in an open meeting like this, and you can't use a third party as a conduit, so that if you tell Victoria something, she can't then go to, for example, if Melanie were to tell Victoria something, Victoria can't go to Drew and tell him what Melanie said, because that would be acting as a conduit, and you can't do that. So that's just the city attorney's office will give a much more in-depth. That's just as you're getting started, for safety's sake, a brief overview of sunshine. And that's all I have, Victoria and Mr. Chairman. If anyone has any questions for me, I will certainly be willing to respond to them, and I'll stay on for a little while in case something comes up that you need me. Again, thank you very much for your service. City Council very much appreciates it.
Chairman, I think the reception is bad. We can't hear you. It's cutting out. We're trying to get some tech support, see if they have any insight. Yeah, it's still cutting out. Chris, is there anything we can do about on his end?
Whoever's got,
I want you to look at mine and see how it's working in and out, so I'm not sure.
John, how's your internet? Is it working fine?
It's it's the chairman, Chris Satterwhite, who's having the issue.
Yeah, I know.
See, look at mine, it keeps working in and out, so I don't know if it's just, see how mine is doing?
Chris, I'm good. I can hear you all. Mr. Satterwhite was very much broken and choppy, but I can hear Victoria fine. When Drew spoke earlier and when Melanie spoke earlier, I heard them just fine.
Ms. Nichols, can you do an audio check for me real quick?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's loud and clear.
Okay.
Mine keeps going in and out.
And Victoria, I don't know if you can see it, but Councilwoman Hill has raised her hand.
Up to your-
I cannot see it.
downstairs.
Councilwoman?
Well, I was just thinking, we've got the presentation, maybe we could say the number and go into the presentation and then try it again for the next item.
Yeah, yes, we can do that if we can't
He's back on.
figure out the glitch.
I'm back if y'all can't see it.
Okay, we can hear you now.
Okay,
I think
good.
that worked.
All right. So we're glad we figured it out. Is it still okay to ask a question, or we pass that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. My question was just for the you said for the rules and procedures that we'll get those at the next meeting, or we'll get those before the next meeting.
We will get those to you before the next meeting,
Okay.
so that you have them for your review before the meeting.
All right. Okay. Thank you. That was my question. Were there any other questions? If not, then we can open up to the public. If there are any questions, since it's my first time here, I'm not sure how to tell if the public has questions, except for on the meeting chat. Is that how it's done?
Yes, we will, no, it's not done through the meeting chat. We will have to check and see if we have received any, and we have not.
Okay.
Oh, I see one.
I have one, but it's not for that.
Okay. We will have one later on in the meeting.
Okay. So that will be at the end of the meeting when we have the open forum?
It will be under a later item.
Okay. Okay. All right. So, I guess we can move on to the next item.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the next item is 20-00381, and it is the CRA Annual Overview and Update Presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to go ahead and get the presentation queued up. Just one moment. Can you all see the screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, looks good.
Okay.
Yes.
So again, I'd like to welcome everyone. I don't think I introduced myself. I'm very sorry. I'm Victoria D'Angelo. I'm the Assistant CRA Administrator. And this presentation is just going to give you a little introduction into the CRA itself and some of the activities that we do. If you have any questions, I'm just going to ask that you hold them until the end, and I'll be happy to answer. We're going to try to cover the following kind of frequently asked questions. How and when was the agency and the districts established? What is the CRA's purpose? How are the redevelopment efforts administered, and how does the board participate in that process? And what projects have we undertaken, and what's planned for the future? So for those who don't know, the CRA is a special district, which basically means that it is an independent entity that's separate and distinct from the city. that was established for a specific purpose, and that purpose is to undertake redevelopment under the state of Florida's Redevelopment Act. The 7 members of the city council serve as the CRA. However, it's important to note that the CRA is a separate body from the city council. And so most of the time, you'll see items go to the CRA. You will occasionally see things go to the city council. However, the CRA is the principal body that's responsible for redevelopment. And so as outlined in the statute, the principal purpose of the CRA is to eliminate and prevent blight, to rehabilitate and conserve the redevelopment districts, to preserve and enhance the tax base, to provide for affordable housing, to reduce and prevent crime, and to prepare and administer the redevelopment plans. The Pensacola CRA has 3 redevelopment districts: the Urban Core District, which was established back in the 1980s, the West Side and the East Side District, which both of those were established about 20 to 25 years later after the Urban Core. And all of these districts pretty much represent the inner city of Pensacola. And so you'll see a kind of an urban form in all of these areas: traditional architecture, narrow streets, small blocks, small lot sizes, and a grid transportation system. In order for the city to create the CRA in each district, the city needed to determine that certain conditions existed which called for establishment of the agency under state law. And this includes things like conditions of slum, blight, a need to conserve the district, and lack of affordable housing. Once that need was determined, the city adopted a redevelopment plan for each of the districts, which basically laid out the vision. And then they established a trust fund, which is commonly called the TIF, to establish a mechanism to provide some funding. The redevelopment plans are long-range visioning plans. They range anywhere from 40 to 60 years in length. And each plan establishes specific strategies to catalyze growth and redevelopment while conserving the district. The trust fund, the way that works, or the TIF, contrary to what some people believe, is that it does not increase any taxes within the district, but rather it captures a percentage of the tax revenues within the district based for reinvestment. And those funds have to stay within the district. They are a percentage of the increment from the year that the district was first developed up until the current year. And so there's a percentage of that increment that is reserved for reinvestment within the district. And so in addition to that, that is just the basic kind of funding mechanism for the CRA's activities, but it's important to note that there are many needs within each of the plans. And so we really heavily rely on private investment, partnerships, sometimes financing, in order to accomplish the goals of the redevelopment plans. So how are projects developed and implemented? I know that this is going to be one of the main concerns for this board. First, obviously, we're always going to start with the vision of the redevelopment plan. And then each year, we're going to reach out to you throughout the year and at the start of the year for input into the specific projects that are outlined in the plan. Prior to the start of the budget preparation for the upcoming year, the redevelopment board will consider and update and recommend a project list for projects that are anticipated within the upcoming 5-year period. In the future years, this will be in October. However, this year you're going to see one for fiscal year 2021, and then you'll see a list again in October, beginning in fiscal year 2022. I do want to point you to where the redevelopment plan is. I don't know if you can see it here on this presentation, but there is a link. We will be posting this presentation to the website, so if you ever need to refer back to it, the link to the plans and how to see the boundaries of your district are within this presentation, so you can refer back here. I know some may be interested in how new projects are added. We do ask that during July would be a good time to kind of broach ideas for new projects, if you have any, and that way, in preparation for the October meeting. Keep in mind that any new projects will require formal action of the board, and it will require staff to vet the projects to be sure that they're aligned with the redevelopment plan and that they're feasible projects. When we receive interest in a project, we will perform that analysis and we will report back to you. Throughout the course of the year, you will get updates on projects. We will look for your recommendations at key phases, and you'll also have points in which we'll ask you to assist us in providing outreach on behalf of your district to encourage participation on some of these projects. So each year, your recommendations and your input will be considered for incorporation into the CRA's work plan and the annual budget. And so these are the two kind of principal actions that go into the implementation of projects. Every year around this time, the CRA approves an annual work plan, and then the CRA approves an annual budget. So your recommendations will go into that process. Obviously, then staff will administer the project development, and this is done by CRA staff. We have 3 staff currently. The CRA administrator, who's on the line today, Helen Gibson, myself, and we have an associate, Denise Murek, which I know many of you have communicated. Wastewater treatment plant along Main Street, Plaza de Luna, the streetscape along Halifax Pier and Conveniencia Slip, the Seville Square Park, Halifax Street, MLK Plaza, Belmont de Villiers and Henry Wire Park, the Aragon Court redevelopment, Port Royal, and we've done a host of commercial facade improvements as well over the years. So now, kind of brings us to today. I just wanted to kind of quickly go over what our current strategy is. Basically, we try to take a very strategic and a layered approach. We look at centering projects geographically, but also layering goals that we're seeking to accomplish so that we provide a catalytic outcome, but also an inclusive and an equitable outcome. So currently, we're undertaking a whole host of projects which play a role in complementing one another and building on the work that's been done over the many years that the CRA has been in existence. One of the things that we've acknowledged as kind of a top priority going forward is going to be housing. Housing is something that is obviously in limited supply, especially affordable housing in the downtown area. And so we do anticipate that that will be a very high priority going forward. And just looking forward, just to look back a little bit. So these are some images just to look at kind of where we started back in the 1980s. And then these are some of the things that the CRA has implemented over the years. So last year we were quite busy. We completed about 11 projects last year. I'm sure many of you remember the urban design overlay that was adopted. We partnered with the Port of Pensacola on developing the ferry landing and the ticketing station. We partnered with Southtown developers to match the streetscape that was done on the opposite side of Jefferson. And closed out one commercial facade project, closed out the Corinne Jones Park by acquiring the last remaining kind of the last little parcel to complete that park there. We completed 2 home rehabs, a year's worth of community policing, and we also supported the Belmont de Villiers Holiday Lights. We do work in partnership with the Downtown Improvement Board through the TIF, and they have implemented several projects on our behalf as well. And these are just some stats just to look at. We did see very good return on investment last year. CRA invested about $8.1 million. And then the permitted value, the estimated permitted value was about $32.5 million or so. Looking at the growth from the base year in property values, we started back in the 1980s at about 87 million. We grew last year to about 702 million. So growth of about 615 million each year from the base year. Very good growth. Another kind of marker to take a look at is residential development. The CRA, the Urban Core CRA, did see 67 new units last year, primarily single family. However, we did see quite a few townhomes and a few issues, and also providing connectivity, kind of an interim approach to connectivity along Main Street from clubs to A, so that we can complete that network in the interim. That project does have kind of a larger project plan to continue the streetscaping that is to the east from clubs all the way to Barranca Street going into the West Side District. There is a design phase slated for fiscal year 2022 through the Florida Department.
With this plan, or you just want to revisit it about what the conceptual renderings were, we do have that posted on the CRA's webpage. Let me know if you would like the link to that. And
Just keep in mind that that is conceptual rendering, and so we will have to work within budget constraints, field constraints, as we start going into design. So keep in mind that that's not a final design, it's just a conceptual rendering. Bruce Beach is another project, again, that originated out of the urban core plan and was further conceptualized in the Scape waterfront plan. We're at the same point with this project as well. The Community Maritime Park Day Marina, again, a project specifically identified in the redevelopment plan. This project is intended to be a transient day use only facility located in the southwest section of the Community Maritime Park and is anticipated to provide about 49 slips. The East Garden District, Jefferson Street Road Diet / Streetscape Project. Again, this is a project that's authorized by the redevelopment plan. This is an extension of the Jefferson Street improvements. It provides some connectivity into those improvements that are envisioned through the hashtag project, and also the improvements that we recently made further south in the next to Southtown. This is a public-private partnership. The project will leverage about $41 million in private investment. The CRA's contribution is the streetscape portion of the project. And so the private developer is going in and redeveloping quite a bit of the buildings there. They're planning about 20,000 square feet in buildings, mixed use, hotel, and then planting